Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon or this today. I know people from different time zones. So today we're going to present how the IT solutions, we'll have a discussion and a demonstration of how the IT solutions can help organizations like yours process and analyze a wide range of document types, how you can do it more efficiently. And our real focus today is to show you how we can deliver insights to your analysts that allow them to do focused review and really apply their trade craft to create actionable intelligence. So first of all, I'd like to thank our partner, Tricia Shelley at for hosting the webinar. I'm joined today by Annie John, who runs the North American sales for I2, and my colleague, Natalie Cline, who is a computational linguist and I2 TextChart expert. And Natalie is going to do a demonstration of the integrated solution after a few slides. So as a note before we get started, as an incentive, if what you see today gets you excited, and we hope it will, we're offering anyone a 10% discount on TextChart through the end of September. So just keep that in mind and mention the webinar that you saw, this webinar, to get that discount. So why don't we start out with the business problem? It's pretty straightforward, and you've heard this many times, I'm sure. In today's world, organizations are just overwhelmed with data, right? There's too many data, too much data, too many formats. You think about call logs, bank records, intelligence reports, social media, incident reports. All this information comes at you. Over 80% of the data that's created today is unstructured. It's in multiple languages. And speaking for the team, we have not talked to any organization who's told us that, hey, dealing with increased data is not a problem because we can just increase our headcount. We know in today's world, organizations are being asked to do more with less people. And that's really the focus today, to show you how the I2 suite of solutions allow you not only to handle data, but to make better informed decisions dealing with all these different data types. So while the webinar title was semi-structured and unstructured data, we're going to show you structured, semi-structured, and unstructured from different file formats, many of the ones I just mentioned to you. So you can see how the engine and the solution will automate the processing and provide the insights to the analyst. And that's really the key, because we're not doing analysis, we're doing processing and visualization so your analyst can apply their tradecraft and make the decisions that are important, and really, to create the actionable intelligence. So I'd like to take a step back and just talk about I2 for a minute. I'm making the assumption many of you know who I2 is, but for the people that don't, I2 has been a world leader in intelligence analysis software for over 30 years. And not many companies can say that. So this software is used today by organizations around the world, from local police departments to the US military, to the military organizations around the world, and by police organizations, commercial organizations. And the reason is that the mission of I2 is very straightforward. As it says on the slide, we want to empower analysts and investigators to discover, create, and disseminate actionable intelligence to combat criminal and terrorist activity. So just like you, our role and our focus is to make the world a safer place. And you can see, that in the tool, and we're going to show you this, we do network analysis. The visualization is incredibly powerful. Temporal analysis to understand when things occurred in the timeline. Pattern analysis, who's speaking to whom, is there a pattern that occurs? Geospatial analysis, and even social network analysis. So we're going to show you all that, and this is all part of our continuing mission to continue to develop and deliver more comprehensive and powerful I2 solutions to our customers and to our new users. One of the, when trying to think about what the best way to describe the power of the I2 suite of products is, it really allows you as an organization, your analyst, to see and understand the full picture. One of the things I'm sure you guys have heard is that analysts spend a great deal of their time getting data ready for analysis. So we're going to show you how using the I2 solution, the solution will actually process the data and then provide insights. So if you know I2, you understand that the I2 suite of products, starting with Analyst Notebook, all the way through the Analysis Studio and Analysis Hub products that are the current releases. They offer industry-leading structured data analytics capabilities. They offer incredible visualizations. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, there's so much capability that's built in over 30 years of solving these problems for our customers and working with customers to solve the problems. I2 TextChart was introduced last year as part of an acquisition by I2 to deliver more capabilities. And the TextChart plugin actually processes both unstructured and semi-structured documents. While TextChart is a new offering for I2, the technology is not new. The technology has been in production for over 10 years. It was developed in the US intelligence community, and it's been used around the world by both military and law enforcement and commercial organizations. As we will show you, this product over the last year has been tightly integrated, and all the capabilities that we're going to show you are available in the different I2 offerings. And we can talk about those at any time. As Tricia said, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. So our goal today is to show you how this suite of solutions, not a specific solution, but the suite of solutions, can process virtually any type of electronic data type that you have and that your organization needs to analyze. So the power is that we can exponentially speed the processing of I'm sorry, I'm just getting a question. I think you can open up the chat if you wanted to, Tricia, so we could answer questions in real time. And I'll be monitoring the chat when Natalie's doing the demonstration.
Happy to do so.
Okay, great, thank you. So as I was saying, the first thing TextChart does is speed up the processing of data. So it allows you to process literally any volumes of unstructured or structured data, semi-structured data that your organization has. It's highly scalable. What it does when it processes documents, it extracts the information that's important to your mission. So the different types of entities, links, geospatial entities, locations are extracted. And out of the box, the engine will extract over 42 entity types, which may or may not be important to your specific mission, but the solution can be tuned to deliver what's important to you. And so we'll map, and I'll talk about this in a little bit about how we can map to your schemas or your templates. And one of the things that when we built this solution, we made a decision, a conscious decision, to ensure that the analyst was always in control. You hear a lot about machine learning and artificial intelligence today, and the technology behind this is a large language model. But we don't make the assertion that the information extracted is all the information that should be extracted, or it's 100% accurate. People aren't 100%, machines aren't 100%. So our goal was to automate the process, but to provide control to the analyst. And we will show you how the analyst can change an entity that was extracted or add an entity that wasn't extracted, to the goal of automating, increasing efficiency, but not taking over the process. And I think it's important to note that the TextChart engine is capable of processing documents in over 200 languages. So if it's a language that's important to your organization, the odds are the engine will be able to process the documents and in the native language and present the information to your analyst, the extracted information. One of the things that we talk about is the idea of a junior analyst. The engine or the TextChart application acts as a junior analyst in the sense that the junior analyst will read the documents, it'll extract the entities that are important to you, it'll remember where those occurred, whether it's the entities or the relationships or links in those documents. And as an analyst, you create a collection of documents that are related to a matter. You can filter, and Natalie will show you this, how you can filter into the document and focus on a specific person, a specific incident, and then see all occurrences of that person or that entity in all of the relevant documents. And the analyst has the ability to review and vet that information in the context of the document. And once they're satisfied, yes, this is a valid extraction, I want to use this, they can send that information in the chart. And if you haven't seen it before, it's incredibly impressive to see how the TextChart plugin automates the building of very complex charts or networks. And we'll definitely show you that. But the key takeaway is that as opposed to focusing on managing data, putting it into a format, manually extracting information, the analyst can now focus on what's important. So a specific organization, a specific person, a specific incident or crime, a type of crime, whether it's a narcotics crime, whether it's, a cyber crime, FinCEN, the application allows the analyst to drill into what's important to them as opposed to looking for it. You can focus on it, find it, and look and start analyzing it quickly. The other key is that we have a lot of different people from different vertical markets or different mission focuses. So the solution has been designed to deliver a wide range of flexibility. We support the law enforcement, the military, the intelligence right out of the box. If you have a commercial application, we can tune our extraction and our presentation to your specific requirements. And while all the entities are always extracted, it's what's displayed in I2. And now he's going to show you this, that's important. So working with you will ensure that we're only presenting the information that's relevant and all of the information that's relevant. One of the titles of this webinar was semi-structured. So when you think about semi-structured document, think about things like forms. So an IIR, an interrogation report, even a SAR, a suspicious activity report, an incident report from the police department. These are all forms where there's a combination of structured information and unstructured information. The I2 team can tune our extraction for any of the forms that you have, and we'll show you a wide variety of forms in the demo. And the last piece is, if you're already an existing IT user, we can map the output to your schema, so we can match your implementation. And the last thing I want to share with you before I turn it over to Natalie is that, we're telling you, and I'm telling you specifically how great this is, right? So you all have heard about ChatGPT. So I took the TextChart information. I asked ChatGPT to tell us the value proposition. Now, as you know, ChatGPT is reading everything on the internet and building that large language model. So a lot of this information could have been from us, right? Because it's out there publicly. But when you read this is really the key, right? And this is what we're going to hopefully show you today, how we increase efficiency, we improve accuracy, we provide better data analysis for your organization with great cost savings. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, and then I'll start looking at the questions in the chat. So Natalie, I'm going to stop sharing, and it is all yours.
Okay, thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, and I'm sorry. So Natalie, before I was just firing that up, the question was, can this be integrated with iBase? Yes, absolutely. There are TextChart solutions for Analyst Notebook, Analysis Studio, Analysis Hub, or EIA, as well as iBase. And we'd be happy to talk to you about any of those deployment patterns.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for joining us today. And I want to set this up with data that may be representative of the types of data some of you are used to importing into Analyst Notebook, and also understand that it may be new to others who are on our call today. So what I've done is I've contrived a scenario where we're going to imagine that we're now in the year of 2024. And I always joke and say my favorite bad guy, Joaquin Guzman, who's also known as El Chapo, has escaped from prison again. I use this demo frequently because it seems like either El Chapo himself or one of his associates is always in the news. And that's always giving me some updated open source documents across a wide variety of languages that I can use for demonstration purposes. I've also contrived various intelligence reports to demonstrate how an organization can leverage our professional services to fine-tune our engine, to identify the entities, links, properties that are meaningful to them across various document formats, and also intentionally omit certain sections of documents from processing. So since El Chapo has been escaping from various prisons for a couple of decades now, in this scenario, we might have analysts who are familiar with his history and his associates, and analysts who may, be new to the investigation. So what we're going to do is use Analyst Notebook to get a sense of who he is connected to by importing some fake records of phone calls that he may have made from prison in the months before his 2015 prison escape. And also we will import some fake phone records from his supposed 2024 prison escape. So I am going to go ahead and import some fake phone records using Analyst Notebook's import specification tool. And you'll see that very quickly, I'm able to import over 600 different entities and 600 different links. And I did this with this import specification. Now, this import specification allows me to tell Analyst Notebook what that structure is of my fake phone records. So let's go ahead and briefly walk through how you would set one up. So what we're going to do is this time we're going to go ahead and import phone logs from the supposed 2024 prison escape. So we'll go ahead. We're going to create a brand new specification this time. And if I had multiple worksheets, I would be able to pick and choose which one I wanted to do. If I have headers in my document, I can tell the engine that I have headers as well. If I wanted to separate some of the data that's in my columns, I can pick and choose how to do that here, but we're going to kind of skip over that for today. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tell Analyst Notebook what type of analysis I want to do. So what I want to do is look at a network of telephone calls. And it's going to present me with my entity types and my link. So both of my entities in this case are going to be phones. And over here is where I'm going to tell it what information in my worksheet correlates to this structured information. So what I want to do is I want to say, okay, well, the person who's making my phone calls is this particular entity. So I'll drag that over there.
Hey, Natalie, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Rodney says he can't see your screen. Now I can see your screen. Rodney, were you able to see the PowerPoint presentation? Sorry, Natalie.
That's okay. I can't see the chat.
He said he can, Rex can see. I know.
Okay.
All right, just keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're good?
Yep.
Okay,
and we're recording this, so we can share the recording.
So essentially what I've done is I have assigned the phone numbers as this entity, but since I don't have the phone numbers memorized and I happen to also have the name of the callers, I would like to set the caller's name as the actual label for my different phone records. If I wanted to, I could even set some additional attribute information. So in this particular case, I happen to have the location of the phone calls, so I can drag that over as an attribute as well. And you can see down here right underneath the caller name, it'll then populate the caller location. So I'm going to do the same thing with my other entity that I have not established yet. So in this next one, these are the recipients. So I'm going to say that these recipient phone numbers are my entity. And because again, I don't have the phone numbers memorized, I want the recipient's name to be the actual label. I have this information, so that might be of interest to me. So I'm going to go ahead and put the recipient's location as an attribute. And again, that'll show up down here right underneath the label. So the only thing that I have left to do is establish my link. And we can see here that there is a little arrow at the end of the link that's saying that this caller is calling this particular recipient. So this is the direction that the phone calls are occurring in. And the label that's on my line is going to tell me the number of occurrences. So this is going to be the number of times that this particular caller called this other recipient. I can additionally add date and time information to my link, which will allow me to use more of the Analyst Notebook tools. So I'm just dragging this information over to the date and time. Now that I have that established, it's going to ask me what date format I use in my particular region of the world. So all I'm going to do is scroll down until I find the date format that my information is set in. I'll tell it what it is. And at this point, I'm going to have it put all of these on a new chart. I could then change my layout if I wanted to change my layout, and I can fill in additional information for me to be able to retain for future use as well. And I'm going to hit import. And this is where it's going to ask me if I want to save these. So when I started out and very, very quickly was able to import, 600 different phone records from the 2015 example, that was because I had already saved that import specification. So I can just as easily go and save this particular import specification. And that means anytime I have a file of data that is formatted just like this, I can just click and immediately import it without having to step through this process. And here we can see that in just a couple of seconds, we imported, again, over 600 different entities and different links. So now what? We have all of this information here, but we need to make sense of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back over to my 2015 phone records chart, my previous chart, and I want to begin analyzing those phone calls. And I want to use the different built-in Analyst Notebook features. So up here in my Analyze tab, I have quite a few different features available to me. We'll go ahead and look at a couple of them today. And the first one I'd like to click on is my bar chart and histogram. So I have the ability to select different types of analysis, what I want to look at. In this case, what I have done is I've picked label and the text. So what I'm looking at over here is the actual value that is on that line for the link. So if you remember when we set up that import specification, it was saying the number of times that the caller actually called the recipient. So when I'm looking at this, I can see that there are certain people that he's called over 50 times and some people that he's called over 100 times in my fake example of phone records previous to a prison escape. I might be interested in knowing who he's calling very frequently before an attempted or successful prison escape. When I click on this particular one that he's called the most, it's going to go ahead and identify that for me in my chart. I can simply hover over it and it's going to show me that the person that he called is Emma Cornell. I can do the same thing over here and I can say, hey, who's he calling over 50 times? And I can see that he's calling Inez Coronel Barreras. At any time, I can employ some of the additional Analyst Notebook features, like I could copy that whole bit to a new chart and retain that for later use, whatever I want to do. But I can leverage all of those Analyst Notebook features. One of the other analysis tools that I like to look at is my time wheel. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the different days and hours of the day that he has made phone calls. And since this is fake phone records that I automatically generated, they are pretty well dispersed. But we can still see that we have different days and times, like 2 a.m. on Tuesday, where he is inactive and he's not making any phone calls. Whereas in this scenario at 5 a.m. on Saturdays, I can see that he's been very active and he called Emma Coronel. So that might be somebody that I want to look at, as well as Inez Barreras, who we looked at a moment ago. I can also use the activity view. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and select all of my entities, and I'm going to click the activity view on my chart. And I have already pre-selected to look at the different dates. And what has happened here is I can look and I can see the different people that he has called, and I can see the activity of those phone calls. And I'm sorry, this would not be a live demo if I didn't break something. So I apologize. I don't know what that error was. It just came up. Sorry about that.
Well, it's just proof, Natalie. It is live software.
It is live software. So you know it's live is when it crashes. I was in somebody else's demo earlier today and theirs crashed too. So it must be the day for machines to crash. So I apologize for that, but we'll be able to quickly get back up and running. Okay, so from the activity view, we were able to go and see the different times of day, and the different times that he had called various individuals. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can complement these traditional Analyst Notebook features with some add-on solutions. So everything that I've showed you so far is available in the out-of-the-box Analyst Notebook. So those are all features that you can use today. But we do have an add-on available, TextChart. And TextChart is a plugin that you can get additionally. And as Kurt mentioned before, if you reference this webinar between now and September 29th, you can get 10% off. So when you utilize this, you're able to analyze that semi-structured data or your unstructured data. And it really provides that perfect complement to the Analyst Notebook that we've all come to know and love. I have gone ahead and added a collection of documents that has about 950 different documents in here, and I've already processed them for the sake of time. But I'm going to show you real quick just how easy it is to add a collection of documents. So if I was looking at another cartel leader like Michel, I would be able to simply navigate to that directory of documents, hit select folder, and I would immediately have those documents available for me to process. I'm going to go ahead and go back to El Chapo, and we'll start looking at these documents. So the TextChart product is really this linguistic engine, and it uses natural language processing to identify those entities, links, and properties that are meaningful to you. And what it's going to do is it's going to analyze that natural language, and then it's going to structure the results so that it's able to complement all of those Analyst Notebook features. So this particular set of documents has a lot of open source documents that I have found about El Chapo or the Sinaloa drug cartel. It also has some fake intelligence reports that I have myself created. So just as a caveat, they are fake, they are not real. And it also has the actual tweets from El Chapo from many years ago and some of his sons. And I have edited a few of the words just for to edit out some of the expletives that he had used in there. Selecting any of the documents after we have processed them is going to bring up that document in a document viewer. So you can see here in the document viewer the different entities that have been extracted, and they have these hit highlights associated with each of the entities. And as you scroll through, clicking on any particular entity of interest is going to pop up a properties box on the right-hand side. So any other additional information that the engine has identified about that entity will be here as well. Here we can see that it has identified the Sinaloa drug cartel as an organization, and it's actually identified it as a subtype of a criminal organization. When you click on different entity types, you're going to see different properties associated with them. For example, if I click on Florence, Colorado, I see a lot of geospatial properties associated with it, such as the latitude, the longitude, the NGRS. What has happened here is the engine has a built-in gazetteer, and it has looked up that named string of text, Florence, Colorado, in the built-in gazetteer. It identified it, and then it was able to bring back that geospatial information. So you can imagine how much time that would save the analyst from having to go and find all of that information and manually entering that. And if I click on Guzman, I'll notice that there's a lot of red being highlighted here. And it's because the engine is running some underlying algorithms to determine all of the references to this particular person. So you can see here that it's identifying Mr. Guzman as well as the pronouns and like himself, so on and so forth. So it's identifying all of those as the same individual. We can see over here on the right the different properties where it's determined that he is a male, and it also has his alias here as well. There are also various links that have been extracted, and clicking on those, it'll take you directly to the first instance of that particular link type. And this really drives home that identity resolution that it has performed, where it's identifying that this is Joaquin Guzman, but it is the pronoun that is being referenced. So this is a really good example of how it's resolved those to the same entity type. You can also navigate through the document by the entities that have been extracted. So like clicking on smuggled, it's going to take me directly to the first instance of smuggled that occurs in my document. So if you imagine a very long intelligence report and you want to try to get to some particular entity, you can click on it and it'll take you directly to that. What I want to do now is go ahead and send El Chapo to my chart. There you go. Sorry. There he is. So I now have El Chapo on my chart. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these so we can just focus on this guy. So from here, I have 951 documents, and I'm trying to get a sense of like his pattern of life, who he's connected to, and I don't have all of the time in the world to go through and read 951 different documents and then manually add those to my chart. So what I want to do is I want to employ this engine to be my junior analyst and have it work for me. By right-clicking on Joaquin Guzman and selecting TextChart Expand, I can pick and choose if there's any particular entity of interest that I care about, or I can even say select all and tell me everything you know about this guy. So when I hit expand, in just a couple of seconds, I'm going to get, let me adjust the view. I get about 100 different entities and links automatically charted for me. So this is that automated chart building that's going to save you and your organization a significant amount of time. What it has done is it has gone across all 950 some documents that are in my collection, and it has determined that these particular entities all have connections back to Joaquin Guzman. Now, even just having, this small amount of entities related to him, it can still be a little bit overwhelming to look at. So you can employ some of the Analyst notebook functionality to go through and query some of those results, or we can even go ahead and put some of these on a new chart. So I'm going to go ahead and put Ivan, Emma, and Joaquin Guzman onto a new chart. So I'm going to select those relationships and create a new chart that's going to be a little bit easier for us to read. So from here, it's my job to verify this information that this junior analyst text chart has brought to me. I might want to verify the relationship between Emma and Joaquin Guzman. So here I can see, this reference of he blew a kiss to his wife, Emma. So this tells me that this is probably why in my fake phone records from 2015, he had called her 106 times. So that makes a lot of sense to me. They obviously have a close relationship. I can do the same thing with Ivan. And I can look here and I can see, the various relationships here. You can also ask the engine to tell you everything it knows about a particular entity. So it's not just at the link level. I can ask it to tell me everything it knows about Emma Coronel. So again, I've got 951 documents over here, and I want to know only the documents that talk about Emma Coronel. So what it has done, and I can make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see, is it has brought back a subset of documents that you can see here on the left-hand side of my screen. So these are the documents that talk about Emma Coronel. So I could click through those, verify this information, and determine if this is relevant to my investigation. And you'll even notice this last one here, I've appended the name of Spanish so that we know that this is a Spanish document. I did not have to tell the engine ahead of time that this document was going to be written in Spanish. The engine automatically identified the language and performed the extraction natively in that language. Now, if I do not read Spanish, I do have the ability to ask the engine to give me a gloss of the document. It's not going to be a full Google Translate. It's just going to be a gloss to give me enough of an idea as to the relevancy of this document to my investigation, and whether or not I need to employ maybe a subject matter expert. Okay, so we've looked at a few different people so far from our initial large chart of Joaquin Guzman. But now I want to start targeting some of the other people. I can go over here and get a breakdown of all of the entities. And again, over here, all of the links that are contained across all 951 of my documents. So I was interested in Ivan, and I did say that I had some tweets in here. So maybe I want to browse through and see who all has been active. What are the Twitter handles that are active in my documents? Here I can see one that might be of interest for, the beginning of the handle says Ivan. I'm going to go ahead and send that one to my chart. And then what I want to do before I do anything else with it is I want to ask it to show me the different tweets. So show me those documents. I'll make this a little bit bigger here as well. I can look through and I can see that I have a lot of different tweets. I can click on different ones and I can see what he's talking about. As I scroll through anything that might be of interest, I could just browse through and start reading and seeing what he's actively talking about, what he's interested in. I can also see here that this is one that's had some retweets, and this, was the president of Mexico. So here we can see that he has been threatening the president of Mexico in some of his tweets. So this might be something that I want to further investigate. And at this point, perhaps I've determined that this is the same Ivan. So what I can do is I can grab my palette, I can grab my link, and I can go ahead and create that link between them. And then I can edit the link name and name it whatever I'd like if I need to. So I can leave it just as link, or I can, say that this is his social handle, whatever it is that I'd like to put. Now, it's one thing to go through and browse that entire list, but, there might be a lot of results here and it might be difficult to see all of them. We had previously noticed that he had called a gentleman named Inez Coronel 58 times in 2015. So I would like to know if any of my documents have any information about Inez. So what I've done is I've used this filter box on the right-hand side to type in Inez, and it's filtered through my results. So what I can do is I can ask the engine to prove it to me, tell me if this is someone of interest. So here I can look through and I can say, okay, yep, this is Emma's dad. So this is El Chapo's father-in-law, who he had called 58 times previous to a prison escape. I don't know about you, but I don't call my father-in-law that much. So I would assume that, he probably is also associated with the Sinaloa drug cartel. And I might want to further investigate this relationship or any of Inez's activities. going to go ahead and create a new chart real quick. I can use this links tab and I can see all of these different links. And maybe I want to see, where are the different locations that associates of Joaquin Guzman are located? Where have they been? I can look through and I can see I have links, 96 of them, of people to different locations. I can very quickly send the entire batch of relationships to my chart. And then I can just go ahead and say, select all, and add them to my map. And what it's going to do is it's going to automatically add all of those locations. And at this point, this is all contrived data, but we're assuming that these are, kind of pattern of life activity, all of the different locations where associates of El Chapo have been located. I am going to minimize some of this here a little bit so we can see our chart a little bit better. And rearrange our chart so we can see it. So knowing that this is the Sinaloa drug cartel, I'm obviously going to be interested in Sinaloa. So I've selected that location on my map. And what has happened over here on my chart is it has actually highlighted that particular chart instance. So this is a really good example of how the TextChart engine is a really nice complement into Analyst Notebook, because I'm using the traditional Analyst Notebook tools that are available to you today inside of Analyst Notebook. But now what I can do is I can add on this complement with TextChart, and I can say, okay, well, tell me, what is it that you know about Sinaloa? And I'm going to be able to bring back, different documents that are talking about Sinaloa here. And there was one other thing that I wanted to show you real quickly. We had talked about how we're able to analyze different types of documents. So we showed you importing structured data with the fake phone records. And again, I know I'm doing all this really quick, trying to get all of it in an hour's time. So we showed you the fake phone records by importing that structured data. And we have shown you analyzing some unstructured data with documents that look like this using natural language. And we also showed you some semi-structured with the tweets. But one of the other things that I would like to show you is one really cool document where we're looking at some semi-structured information. So when we look at this particular document, also please note, this is all contrived data. This is something that I made up, but I wanted to make it look as real as possible for an organization. So when you look through this, typically you would say, well, the Central Intelligence Agency would be an organization, and that's not being extracted. Washington, D.C. would be a location, and it's not being extracted. And that's intentional. So what I've been able to do is I've been able to say, hey, I know all of these things are probably actually entities, but it's really kind of like that header information in my document, and it's not relevant to my investigation. So I have been able to use some of those linguistic services to omit that information from my results. And what it's going to do now is it's only extracting the parts that I actually care about. So when I click on Joaquin Guzman, now when I look over here on the right-hand side, I'm able to see, okay, it's identified this government ID number that we've associated with him. It's also identifying that he weighs 165 pounds, that he has brown hair, brown eyes, and that he's 5'6". And this is a really good example of a semi-structured report type document where we're able to say, okay, this is, we see this a lot in government forms, right? Governments love forms, and they're all very repeatable. So once we know what that form looks like, then we're able to omit the things that we don't want to see processed and only process the things that we care about. We're able to identify which properties we want to have associated with our entities, what things we might not want to extract, and set all of that up. And additionally, down here, we were able to omit all of this information from processing as well. So I know that was a ton of information, really, really fast. And we also know that organizations are presented with magnitudes of data, and a large portion of it is going to be unstructured and semi-structured. And you have that structured data with things like phone records, financial information, things like that, that you're able to use Analyst for to import. And manually reading all of these things and creating those charts can be very time consuming. So I hope that this shows you some ways that your organization can be more efficient and save a lot of time and automate some of that chart process for you. And now between now and September 29th, there's 10% off of your TextChart purpose. Yes.
Natalie, one of the questions was about the ability to change an entity extraction. I don't know if we did the hand tagging, the ability to, do we have a couple minutes for that?
Let's do that real quick, actually. So let's go ahead, since we're right here. I know this is not like a specific named entity, but it's right here. So maybe militia members is something that I want to be able to add to my chart. So once I've highlighted that, I can then go in and say create the entity. So I've got militia members, and now all I need to do is decide what is the entity type. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and make it an organization. And now I can put in additional information if I want to. Maybe it's the Sinaloa cartel. I can't type either. Then maybe it's the Sinaloa cartel. Whatever it is that it would be, I can enter any additional properties or information that I want. And then I hit save. And now we can see that we have that hit highlight here in our document. And when I right click on it, I now have the ability to send that entity to my chart and start building out my chart with it and interacting. You can do the same
The question
thing.
is the remove it. So does this work for the already ID the TextChart gave? So removing an entity.
Yep. So you can do the same thing where you can edit it. You can edit the properties, or you can just hit remove entity and it'll undo that. And you can do the remove entity on anything else. So like even any of the ones that TextChart has found, you can remove, and it's no longer an entity. Are there any other questions?
There's a question about text extraction, much improved over previous TextChart. There's similar updates to standalone. Absolutely. Everything that Natalie's showing you is available in the new release. We had a new release of the IT solutions as well as the TextChart solutions yesterday. So if you have if you're a current user, Rex, you can download the software, talk to your rep, and we'll help you. But all these capabilities are available. And I think, Natalie, we've got a couple minutes left. The 2 points that I'd like to make, because that was a great demo, Natalie, you're right. It's a lot of information, but hopefully what everyone saw was, as Natalie said, structured information, semi-structured information, different formats, unstructured information, all done through the integrated IT suite. And it's available, as I mentioned, whether it's standalone, whether it's an iBase implementation, whether it's an EIA or analysis hub solution. These capabilities are available. There's a lot more capabilities. Obviously, we just showed you a few different document types. But when you get to the semi-structured forms, Natalie said this, and it's important. Understanding the format of the document is the key. We can work with you. The IT team can work with you to set up the extraction for your form, so you get what's important to you. Because as she mentioned, the organizations and the places in the header, they're entities. They could be extracted, but we know it's repetitive text, so we're just going to ignore it. But if not knowing that was repetitive text, there'd be no way for us to tell the engine, hey, just ignore whatever the customer doesn't want, because we don't know, right? So working together, we can work with you to really tune that extraction. And the question about, can TextChart work with unstructured data in a SQL Server database? The structured fields, there is a way to do it. It's not necessarily straight out of the box, but the ability to process the unstructured fields in a database record is something that can be done, but it requires, there's a little bit of professional services that are required. The question about handset message stored in tabular format in different languages. So the engine TextChart doesn't translate. What TextChart does is it identifies the language in this particular segment of the document and then does the extraction on the language, on the native language. And as Natalie showed you have the ability to see the non-English document with the English gist. And again, the gist is not a translation. It's really a token by token representation. And then the goal is to provide you with an understanding of what's in that non-English document. If it's, in this case, a Spanish document you don't read. So you want the understanding. I don't read this. I know it isn't important. Do I need to get it translated, or can I get enough information out of the gist to make a determination and to use that? And again, the documents, one of the powerful capabilities Natalie showed you is the ability to review that extracted anterior link in the context of the document. So as an analyst, you're making that decision, yes, this is viable information that I want to include in my finished intelligence product. So if there's no other questions, again, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to participate in this presentation and demonstration. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to work with customers. Here, Natalie, this is one for you. The answer is yes, but will it handle languages that use other than the English alphabet?
Yes, it will. Actually, let me go back to sharing just real quick so I can prove it to you.
Yeah.
Here we go. So you should be able to see my screen. So here's an Arabic text, for example. So we've got Arabic and
Cyrillic.
Yeah, I thought I
all
had
the languages you care about, whether it's Chinese, Korean, Russian, the Cyrillic languages, the Arabic languages. The engine is designed to identify those and do the extraction on the native language.
And you can see, like right here, there's a particular token that we did not extract because we're not a translation tool. So we're not trying to do that, but there's certainly more than enough information here for you to be able to determine the relevancy of this to your mission and whether or not you need to get a subject matter expert or if this is, not relevant at all. And that's our goal.
And Natalie, I got called out on, I mentioned I was going to speak about deployment patterns and I didn't. So the basic deployment patterns that are available are the Analyst Notebook with the TextChart standalone. There's Analyst Notebook Premium or Analysis Hub Premium, or now it's an Analysis Studio Premium with the TextChart plugin. There is a TextChart server deployment that's available for collaboration in higher volumes that can be deployed with an I-based deployment or an EIA or Analysis Hub deployment. As many of you probably know, we've been doing rebranding as we've left IBM. So the products that you knew as Analysis or Analyst Notebook is now Analysis Studio, and Analysis EIA is Analysis Hub. But there are deployment patterns available to use TextChart, whether it's in a standalone environment and a work group or an enterprise deployment. And there's different costs associated with the licensing and different capabilities. All righty. Well, it's 1:58 in the East Coast, so we'll give everyone 2 minutes back. And thank you very much again. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Annie and Natalie. Great demo. And the fact that it crashed just proves live software, right?
Live software for sure. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.